Welcome everyone. And so on the menu tonight, we're doing Katsudon. Katsudon is a dish that's a combination of two dishes actually. It's Tonkatsu, which is a breaded pork cutlet, and that's fried. And then the other part is donburi. So donburi is usually scrambled egg with a sauce, vegetables, and a protein served over hot rice. It's served in a bowl. So we're doing katsudon, which is actually the long way to say it would be what do you call it? Tonkatsu donburi. But the short version is we call it katsudon. Okay. So traditionally, tonkatsu is fried, deep fried. And well, we're all trying to watch our wastes and our health. So I decided to, I found this nifty on a website how to do this baked katsu. So we're going to do that today because it's, anytime you deep fry, you have splatter, it's messy, and then you have to get rid of the oil after. So this is a really nifty way to go. Oh, before I forget, everyone turn your ovens on, please, to 400 degrees and that would be 200 degrees Celsius, okay? We got to get our ovens preheated. So everyone get your ovens on there. I guess some people are just watching, but other people are cooking along with me, so I understand. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to first, since it takes 20 minutes to bake the pork, so we're going to get that going first, and then we'll work on the sauce when that's baking, okay? So everyone we need a kind of a skillet like this size. We're going to toast our breadcrumbs. That's the secret here, right? We're going to, instead of frying it, we're going to toast the breadcrumbs in oil. And so we're going to get a nice toasty brown. So turn your burner onto about medium heat. We have our vegetable oil. So in the recipe, I put 1 cup of panko, but you know what? Let's not skimp. It's easier if you have more panko. You'll see when we bread it. So let's do a cup and a half, cup and a quarter, cup and a half. Is everyone with me here, I hope? Oh, let me see. Okay, so we're gonna got our pan heating. Gonna squirt the oil, this is about a tablespoon and a half. So this is gonna take a few minutes. We wanna toast this until it gets a nice golden brown. So in the meantime, I'll talk a little bit about the dish. Oh, by the way, you guys can't get panko. Panko is a Japanese style breadcrumb it's like little slivers instead of like the usual little bits. And it's really nice because it's very light and it has a nice crunch. If you can't get that though, it's perfectly fine to use regular breadcrumbs that you can buy at the store, or if you can't get them at the store, just get regular bread, any kind of bread, and buzz it in a food processor until it's fine, like sand, and then just put it on a sheet pan and toast it in the oven at 300 degrees or 150 C. And then, but just make sure you keep an eye on it and move it around because the edges might brown more faster than the middle. And there you have breadcrumbs. So you're good to go. So the dish tonkatsu. Oh, by the way, ton means pork and katsu means cutlet. It's actually only about, well, it was first came to Japan, or was first showed up in a restaurant in 1899. It's actually, how the Japanese are really good at taking something and making their own version of it. Well, it's believed that tonkatsu was originally based from Austria, well, Wiener Schnitzel, right? So, but they did their own version of it with a panko, and it's served, usually regular tonkatsu is served as the cutlet on top of shredded cabbage, and they use tonkatsu sauce, which is actually another thing that the Japanese got Worcester sauce and then made tonkatsu sauce is kind of like their version of Worcester. So keep moving your breadcrumbs here. You'll see that it's starting to get color. You want it the color to be even all around. So okay, so by the way, keep an eye on if your temperature, like mine started to smoke a little bit. If it starts to brown too fast, take it off the heat, turn the heat down, keep moving it. You don't want to burn it, right? You want this nice toasty brown. Getting there.
Hey, Alan, can you remind folks how much oil you used again?
That was about, well, for 1 cup, 1 tablespoon, I used 1.5 cups, so about 1.5 tablespoons. So by the way, in Japan, you know, the katsu is served in different ways. They serve it it's one of the most common Japanese dishes. They serve also katsu with curry sauce, curry on top and vegetables, and they serve it in a sandwich. So, and also this katsu can be done with other proteins. Like I've done lots of chicken katsu, and you can do it with fish. I've done it with tofu. It's the same process, you just use a different protein. Okay, it's getting close here.
Hey, Alan, can you remind us, like, what's the importance of toasting the breadcrumbs beforehand again?
Well, because we're not frying it, so if we want to get the nice color and keep the crispiness with the oil, so we're basically doing what the frying it in would do, and then when we put it in the oven, we're cooking the pork. So everyone doing okay here? Are any people doing it with me?
Oh, Alan, what about gluten-free options? We have some folks wondering about that.
Oh, that I did not research. I don't know if you can find, I think I've seen gluten-free breadcrumbs. I think I've seen them, but I haven't tried them. I'm sorry. And I guess you could try, you know, just making your own. They might even make gluten-free panko. I think I might have seen it somewhere. Okay, I'm really close here. Just a tad more. You can see there's some light spots in there. You want to get it all really nice and browned.
Oh, and for those on the phone or on the meeting, Pam said that she's seen some gluten-free panko, in fact.
Oh, good, nice.
Right, yes.
Okay, I think I'm almost. Just make sure you don't burn it, right? Keep an eye on this. Okay.
How high is your heat again, Alan?
Medium.
Okay.
You got to regulate it. I had to turn it down because it started to get to cook too fast. This is the kind of thing that if you have the heat and you forget about it, it can burn really quickly. So the stuff on the edge will cook faster. So you just got to keep turning it here like that. Got some smoke here, but it's fine. Okay, so that's done. Set that aside. Now we're going to work. We have to prep the pork. So we have our pork loin, boneless pork loin here. You can also use pork tenderloin. So what you want to do is trim off any excessive fat. This isn't too bad. And then what you want to do here is cut where there's connective tissue around the edge. And if you just don't do anything, it'll tend to curl because it'll tighten at cook at a different rate. So what you do is just cut down the edge just about halfway through. Just, you know, a few spots here. Just like halfway. And then do it on the other side too. Okay. So now we need to tenderize it. And you know what? I thought we had a meat tenderizer here at the temple, but we don't. So, you know, you just have a little mallet that you pound, but I'm going to do the old-fashioned way. And I already sanitized this for your information. this is to tenderize the pork and also to flatten it out, make it a little bit thinner.
Like how flat do you want to kind of pound it to? Or
It's kind of personal preference. Some people
Okay.
like their tonkatsu really thin, but then it can get dried out. So kind of in between. Yeah, I've seen really thin ones and also pretty thick ones.
And then Alan, if you use something like chicken instead of pork here, do you still have to tenderize the chicken?
Yes, but be careful. I always recommend thighs because they're juicier, but you have to be careful because when you have boneless skinless thighs, there's a kind of there's a part here and there's two kind of parts and they can come apart. So just try to keep it together, and it's more delicate than the pork. Of course, you can use chicken breast if you want to, and that's healthier.
And you said there's non-meat options too, like tofu and other things that you suggested, right?
Yes. I actually just a couple weeks ago made a vegan version with koya tofu, which is a freeze-dried tofu, which is very interesting texture, kind of not meaty, but it's meatier than regular tofu. And I used that just egg, which is a vegan egg, and it worked out pretty good, I think. I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot quicker. If you have a meat mallet, it's just pretty quick to just pound it. You want to do it on the side that has the little bumps so it tenderizes it. Okay. So the next thing is to season the cutlets. I'm going to say something here that I feel it's important. It's salt. I highly recommend that you try using for home cooking kosher salt. The reason is regular salt, table salt, I never use in the kitchen. Only at the table, because the little grains, they tumble them so that all the little edges are gone. So all you're left with is little, balls. So when you if I grab table salt in my fingers, it falls out. You can't even hold it. Plus, it doesn't stick to stuff. Kosher salt is light, it's flaky. You can feel it in your fingers. It's very nice. So I really recommend you try this. And the other thing is it sticks well to things. For instance, if I had a piece of zucchini right here, a flat piece, and I put through table salt, it would bounce off. Kosher salt just sticks right on there. The other thing I will say though, if you use it, you use twice as much because it's so flaky and airy that it, regular table salt is really concentrated because it's so compact. So if you're doing a recipe, you use twice as much of the kosher salt. We have our fresh ground pepper. So the other thing is, when you're seasoning with salt, you don't want to be down low. You want to be salt from up, throw the salt from up higher because then it'll get better distribution. So you just go like this.
And like Alan, how much salt would you say on pepper that you're seasoning with, just if folks are wondering?
Well, okay, so you size like maybe 2 pinches or 1.5 pinches, on each side. It takes, yeah, maybe quarter teaspoon or something. Okay, so we got that. Now we're going to set up our breading station. Okay. So breading is pretty easy. It's really easy, but there are some tricks to it. Okay, so for a breading station, what you will have is get 3 containers. You can use a plate, a pie pan, or whatever you have. And so there's 3 steps. First, you have your flour. So you dust your protein with flour so that the egg wash will stick. And then we have our eggs. So let me get my one egg actually. So we got 1 egg here. So I'm just going to do beat the egg quickly. It's our egg wash. Then we have our panko. Okay. So the trick with breading is that you have one hand that's your wet hand and the other hand is your dry hand. So this is okay, so first you just dust your pork in your flour, get good coverage. Make sure everything's on there. And also, but make sure you only want a very thin layer of flour because it causes problems if you get too much. Same with the egg. You really want to make sure that you let it sit enough so that the see what happens is you'll get dry spots. Sometimes you think it's breaded. I mean that the egg is in there, and then you'll get dry spots, and then of course the panko won't stick. See that like this? You don't want that dry spot. Okay, so once you're done there, you get just off the edge here. Okay. Use the edge there to get rid of the egg. Now plop it down in your panko. But you don't, your right hand is the dry hand, so don't get it on the egg, right? You just want, this is why I made extra panko, because it's, you just pile it on top here. And then pat it on, pat it down. And then press it, see, and then press it down. Okay, that's ready. Okay, there we go. Goes on to the pan.
Hey, Alan, can I ask a question about the flour? We have a gluten-free. Is it okay to use gluten-free flour substitute, or like, what's the purpose of the flour again? If people,
Yeah, it's just something to make it so that the egg will stick.
got
If
it.
you did it without flour, it might, yeah, stick. You can use, I've used chickpea flour. I've used, yeah, you could probably use gluten-free too, flour. So if you don't do the two-hand technique or the, you know, wet hand, dry hand, then you end up like panko gloves, right? Because it just keeps on sticking and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think that happens to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try your new method.
Stubborn egg. Okay, there you go.
Eggs matter. Like I noticed you have brown eggs, white eggs. Is there a difference? I don't know.
No, I mean, I try to get organic, whatever I can, you know. So make sure you press, and you can see if there are spots that don't have the panko, then put some more on, press it down. Have pretty good coverage here. So now our panko, I mean our tonkatsu goes in the oven. So that has to cook for 20 minutes.
So that was a 400-degree oven, right, Alan?
400 degree or was it 300 C?
And you said 20 minutes to cook, but how can people check to know like if it's done or not? Is there a good way for folks to know when the pork is cooked?
Yeah, when it comes out, I'll show you. Well, you can feel the meat, and you can tell by the how firm the meat is. And by the way, when I worked at a restaurant, we would have people return pork tenderloin all the time because people like my mom's generation, oh no, raw pork, you're gonna get trichinosis, right? You don't have to worry about that now. I mean, if you go right, all the pork these days is done indoors and controlled environment. In the old days, you know, they are outside, and the trichinosis actually comes from rat feces. So, you know, and it's a sin, it's a crime to eat. To me, it's like eating a piece of overdone salmon, right? It's dry. Whereas a properly cooked pork tenderloin should be medium rare inside and moist. So, but even it's funny how it is because when people would come in, even if you tell them that it's safe, some, you know, they just, that's the way they're raised. So they just cook the heck out of the pork and it's like a piece of wood, you know?
So like for us today, like a little bit of pink, if you cut through your cutlet is okay, you're saying?
Yeah, well, well, what we're doing today, this is fully cooked. It should be fully cooked.
Got it.
But when this is because this is a cutlet. If you're doing like a tenderloin, you know, let's say roasting a tenderloin, then that you would want medium rare because that would be,
Okay.
Otherwise it would be too dry. Okay, so now we're gonna work on the sauce. We have an onion here, yellow onion. I'm gonna show you guys how I like to cut that. So you have your root end and the stem end and root, or the top end, right? So I always cut off a little bit here off the top end, okay? And then turn it over. cut down vertically on the root, right? Like this. You guys get that? We're only using half an onion here. So then when you peel the onion, this is actually fine. A lot of the time you have to take off another layer because you'll have, by this end, you'll see a papery part. You never want the papery part of the onion, right? So just always take that off.
Alan, this might be a dumb question, but like, is there a way to pick a good onion in the whole pile out there?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a good question. You know, I go, obviously I'm a cook, I go shopping all the time, and I kick myself in the head sometimes because I'll just go in and grab stuff, and then later like, oh, this thing's old. So you should, whenever you're getting produce, you should take a look and feel it. If it's soft, you know, or it's looking dried out, like shallots, garlic, you know, onions. When they get old, then you got to be careful because you'll see it'll get shriveled and dried up and no good, you know. So, and also, of course, if you see the green sprout coming out, that's not good.
Okay.
So what we're going to do here is cut off the stem end just to like 1/3 of an inch, just a little bit like that. This is the way I prefer to cut my onions. I don't like the look of, you know, the circles or half circles. So what we do here is just going to cut this way, okay? In terms of knife technique, you never want to get your fingers like this. That's how you get cut yourself, right? You always do what's called the claw, where you get like this, and you push the knife up against your knuckles. And so when you want to do like a thin cut, you just move your knuckle and then you just push your knife and go that way instead of having the knife just floating around. That's when you can have the knife can skip and you can cut yourself. So this way, you're just cutting it into thin little strips like this. Okay. The other thing is, whenever I teach sushi classes, it's funny because I tell people when we cut the rolls, people have the roll, right? And they just go straight down and then it mushes, right? You always have to move the knife forward when you're cutting. So this is, see how I'm rocking it forward like this? Then when it's getting kind of dicey here because there's not much space, just turn it over this way and that's easy, okay?
And is it better to like have a sharper knife than a dull knife? Like some people think a sharp.
Yeah, well, they always, as they
but-
say, right, a dull knife is much more dangerous, right? So yeah, because that's when your knife will skip and it won't cut and then it'll jump and maybe cut you. This is something I highly recommend. It costs you like $1. It's for it's a bench scraper, but like for baking. But this is great. I used to keep one in my back pocket in culinary school because all you do is, you know, it's easy to scoop stuff up. And then when you want to clean, you can do that. So best 99 cents you ever spend. Okay, so now we need to make our sauce. For the sauce for the, I remember there's 1 cup of dashi, right? So I'm going to do 1 cup of water.
Oh,
Okay.
and then it's just 2 tablespoons sake meaning shoyu, and then
Okay.
2 teaspoons of sugar.
Okay, thanks.
So sugar are your teaspoons, everything else tablespoons.
Okay,
too.
good. Thank you. So this is our hondashi. It's an instant fish stock that they use smoked bonita. For if you can't get this, you can use, you know, chicken stock with water. Excuse me, with water. Or actually, a really good substitute would be a little bit of fish sauce with water, because that will give you that little fish, but not too much, right? So we got 1 teaspoon of this. So the amount on this is 1 teaspoon per cup of water. So we're going to mix that like that. Then we have 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 2 tablespoons of mirin. If you can't get mirin, you can use white wine and add sugar to it. I looked online; they give a recipe for it, but basically you just want that a sweetness to sweeten up sugar to sweeten up the white wine. So if you didn't know, mirin is sake. It's a cooking sake. It's a sweet cooking sake. So we have our regular sake, 2 tablespoons. And then 2 teaspoons sugar. So that's ready to go. So it's only been 10 minutes. So now we're going to take some time to show. I'm going to show you. If you saw on the menu, we're doing 2 simple sauces that are really versatile. I keep them in my fridge at all times. Incredibly simple, but very useful. So the first one we're going to do is miso marinade. So this is you can use it as a miso marinade. You can use it with any protein. I usually do fish, but you could do chicken, beef, even tofu. I've done miso marinated tofu actually. We are using white miso, shiro miso. That's milder. I'm not a big fan of the red miso. It's very strong. It has certain applications. In general, I like the white miso. The other thing is, I've bought, I always try to buy organic, but the problem is I bought organic miso and it usually has chunks in it. And I don't like that because as you see, like I grew up with this brand and it's, this is the brand. But it's, you can see it's very smooth. And so that's nice. I don't like chunks in there, right? So we've got 1 cup of miso. We're going to do the sugar first. The reason being, when you're measuring stuff out in a cup, always do the dry stuff first. Well, it's wet already, but once I do the miso, it's going to be all messy, right? So while this is clean, I'm going to do my, I think it was misprinted. It should be 3/4 cups of sugar. It said 2/4. It's 3/4. So 3/4 of a cup, right? Okay.
Hey, Alan, people are wondering, where do you get your miso in a tub like that? Some folks haven't seen it in a tub. They're just wondering.
I just buy this at the Japanese market. This is from Tokyo Fish.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have our sugar. Let's do our miso. So we got 1 cup. Actually, let me do the mirin and do the mirin first. So mirin, we have 1/3 cup. So that would be 1/3 cup, which is about 100 milliliters. Okay. Then I just do a splash of sake. I know that if you look online, like I just did Nobu's famous miso marinade, and they put the same amount of sake and mirin. I don't know. I usually do my miso marinade with just mirin and sugar. I think the sake might make it too that boozy flavor, but that's just my take on it. So all we're doing here is we're going to heat it up so that we melt this sugar, so we don't have those sugar crystals crunching in your mouth, right? This is a cup, about a cup. And they say too, a lot of times they'll say, boil the sauce or actually put the meat in and the sake in first and boil it to get rid of the alcohol, I guess for kids, but I don't, it's going to get cooked later anyway. I don't worry about that. And also I often use agave instead of sugar for this. The only problem with that is if you use agave, then it becomes more liquidy. So if you're going to use it as a glaze, it might start to drip off the fish or whatever faster. So we're going to put this on low heat. So this, when I say this is universal, so you can use it, like I said, to marinate, as a marinade. You can also use it as a glaze. So for instance, you can use this for salmon. I've done it where you put it. The best way I do it is in a Ziploc bag, because that way you'll have even coverage, or everything will get exposed. When you do put like salmon in to marinate or any kind of protein, just make sure. The good thing about a Ziploc bag is that you can move it around and make sure the miso is everywhere. Sometimes when you put it layered, like in a casserole dish or something, the weight of the meat will push out the marinade. So when you go to take it out, there's dry spots. So you really want to make sure that the marinade is touching all the pieces of the meat.
Ellen, if you were, oh, sorry.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, if you are going to use this for a marinade, like how long do you suggest folks like marinate like chicken or meat or whatever meat or whatever they're doing with it?
Overnight at least. You can do like I just did the Nobu's, that's how the black cod, and I did that for 3 days. But usually overnight for like 1 or 2 days. I forgot my whisk. It's good to have a whisk to kind of get rid of these. Oh, we might have one in the drawer. I can still hear the sugar granules. So we're heating this, keep on heating this.
And you said on low heat, so it doesn't will it burn if you're not?
Yeah, you want to keep stirring it. Yeah, low to medium heat, I guess, medium low maybe. You can also use this for crudité. Crudité is, raw vegetables and as a dip. Almost done on our pork. So there's our miso. I'm going to show you what I do with this. So this is the same thing that I do when I do salmon, not the marinade, but a glaze. So the salmon, you would cook it to medium rare. I usually start it in a pan on skin side down, get it going, and then flip it and put it in the oven. And with this is a dish that I often do for catering. It's a nasubi, a Japanese eggplant. And all you do is cut them lengthwise down the middle in half. Then I brush them liberally. As you guys probably know, if you've ever cooked eggplant, it absorbs oil like crazy. So you want to get a good amount of oil in there. I actually cross-hatched it, like thin little cuts so that the heat will go through better. Brush both sides with oil. And then in the past, I've always done it on a grill, but I tried it this time in the oven and it worked fine. At 400 degrees, you just want to make sure the stem end here is more dense. So sometimes it'll, that's the slowest cooking, so you just want to make sure that it's all soft. And then all I do is get my marinade. And this will thicken up when it cools. You want it to be thicker so it's not as liquidy. But all you do is good coverage like this. Then I have my handy, you get these torch, it's like $10 or something at the hardware store. These are fun. You can also broil in the oven. The problem with broiling is that, it's a beauty with this, let's say with your salmon, it's perfectly medium rare. You put it under the broiler and it cooks it too much. The nice thing about a torch is, you can just do the top and it doesn't overcook it. Plus they're fun to use, I love them. It'll be very fun. So you just torch it until you, oh, I gotta remember, I don't do it on wood. Get here.
So Alan, you're just trying to get like a nice brown, right? Because the eggplant is already cooked. So is
Yeah,
that right?
you're just going for a nice caramelization. It looks really pretty. It's kind of like bruleeing on, creme brulee, right?
Oh, like Alan, when you're prepping the eggplant, how long did you put it in the oven for this time? Or when you grill it, how long?
I might have been 15 minutes, but just check on it. You just want to really make sure that the eggplant is soft, because you don't want to be sitting there chewing on it, especially on the stem end, it'll get fibrous. And so you really want to make sure that it's really mushy, cooked all the way through. But that's it. And this is one of my go-to dishes that people love when I do catering. You can see it's very easy. I mean, it's quick.
And Alan, it looked like the miso marinade that you made like yields a lot. So like how long will that last?
Indefinitely. I mean, you have it in the fridge for indefinitely. Yeah. I just have it in a Tupperware in the fridge and pull it out. Yeah.
Got it.
So the other thing we're going to do, oh, it's been 20 minutes. So let's check on the pork. So you're asking how to tell just by, and this is experience, but you can tell if you're doing it. This is very, very tight, right? As proteins, as they cook, it's called denaturing, but excuse me, the strands tighten up, and you can just feel this is very stiff. So that's cooked. Okay.
And I noticed you have it on a wire rack. So should folks be trying to cook it like that instead of?
Oh yeah, yes, because if you don't use a rack, moisture gathers underneath and then it steams. So that's always an issue. Whenever something steams, then you won't get good color or good browning.
Got it.
So let's see, we have our sauce, we have our onions. So now we're going to do the final thing, the katsudon. So what we have here, usually katsudon is done in single portions. It's possible to do it in a bigger pan and do multiple, but it's hard to regulate the cooking of the egg. I did once for a hotel pan for 30 people. Certain parts are raw, certain parts are cooked. So this is classically how it's done. And also they actually have a special pan that has a handle like this. It's really nice. But anyway, so all you do is turn your heat on. I guess about medium. Then we have our half onion. We're going to do one of the two portions right now, right? We're going to do one pork cutlet. So put half our onions there. Then we have our sauce. Now mix up because there's sugar in the bottom. And then put half of it in. I think it's 2/3 to 3/4 of a cup, around that. Meantime, we're going to crack our egg.
Alan, this is Susan. So you don't, so you don't brown the onion at all?
No. You just put it straight into the liquid here. All we're doing is softening it up. So it takes about 4 or 5 minutes for this to cook properly, yes. If you were to cook it, if you were to brown it first, then you would get caramelization, which would change the flavor and the texture. Basically, you want the onions cooked to where they're soft, but not too broken down.
Okay, got it.
And with the egg, you don't have to get like a really, totally scrambled. It's actually preferable in a way to have kind of white and the eggs, the white and the yolk, kind of different parts. It's just how it's usually served. And you know what? I'm going to do 2 eggs. I like mine eggy. I did one this morning, and 1 egg didn't even cover it. So a little more cholesterol. No, didn't hurt it. Never hurt anyone, right? Okay, so it's coming up to a boil. So basically, the main thing is we don't want to have crunchy, strong tasting onions, right? So we're just gonna let it simmer till it softens up. In the meantime, let's cut our pork.
Ellen, is there any special way to cut the pork?
Just into little, like 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter strips.
Got it.
Okay, that's ready to go. So you can see they're starting to wilt a little bit, but not quite enough. So maybe another minute. Okay, so you can see now they're starting to get droopy. See that? So now it's time. So we get our pork. Put it on there. Now just eggs on top. And cover. And turn the heat down to medium low. And it's probably going to be about 2 or 3 minutes. What's nice, I've seen different methods. I've seen methods where they do the eggs and pour it on top. Once the eggs are cooked, put it on top of the pork. But I like this better because the pork is soaking up all the juices, so you're getting all that flavor. And you really want this to be a little bit runny. Oh, we're almost there. Actually, that's about ready. So now all you do, I don't have rice here, but if you you just get your bowl of rice and you just slide this off over on top of your rice and you're good to go. And you can put a little parsley, or I like green onion for color and a little bit of flavor. Voila. That is our katsudon. Oh, I forgot. Oh, go ahead. You have a question?
I was just going to say, is there still liquid? Some of the sauce.
Yes, there's liquid in there.
Down.
Yes.
Okay.
And to quickly do the other sauce, which is really quick. This is our gomae. Gomae is sesame seeds dressing. This is great because you can use it for spinach, is how it's classically done. You can do it on green beans. I've done on napa cabbage, the green part. You can do it on bean sprouts. You know, with all those vegetables, you want to blanch the vegetables in boiling water with a good amount of salt. The salt will keep the color of the vegetables. Then shock them in cold water, and just, you know, you want them just keep, like for instance, green beans, you keep tasting it to get the right texture, and then you just toss it in the sauce. Although I will say, it's preferable to toss it at like if you're going to cook this for a party, wait till the last minute to toss it, because when the stuff sits, it'll get, you know, turn color, and the salt brings out liquid and it gets kind of watery. So what we're going to do is, first thing, we have 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds. These are toasted sesame seeds, but you know, if you don't have access to toasted, just get regular white sesame seeds, and then you just put them in a pan and just toast them until they start to pop and turn color. Sometimes, if I have time, even the toasted ones, I will, or roasted, I guess they call them, roasted. I will re-roast them, because when you roast them, it brings out the oils and it makes it more fragrant and flavorful. But you don't have to. You can use a suribachi, which is the bowl used with, that has the it's ceramic and it has these little lines, so that, you know, grinds. But being that I like speed, and you know, I do this for big parties, I'll show you that the trick to do this quickly. I have a coffee mill that I use just for spices, but Thank you, Mom. My mom gave me this. It's like 40 years old, but it still works. Okay, so, and the other thing you can do with this, I often do a sesame miso, like green beans. Same thing, just add a little bit of miso, white miso. And you don't want to do too much. You don't want the miso to be overpowering, but just a little, that sweetness of the miso is really nice. So all we do then is 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce. So 1 teaspoon sugar, no, 1 tablespoon sugar. Half teaspoon sake. Half teaspoon mirin. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon mirin. I like mirin better. So 1/2 teaspoon would be 2.5 milliliters. Just very little bit. And then a teaspoon or 5 milliliters of mirin.
Like, Alan, you said you like mirin more. Like, what do you like about mirin? I'm just curious.
It has, well, actually this, yeah, this is the one I use, the manjo. This one actually has flavoring in it too, so it's more flavorful. To me, it doesn't say. So to me, regular, just sake has very little flavor. It just has a booze flavor, but it's not much. Mirin has a sweetness to it. It has more undertones. So I prefer it, yes.
Got it.
So that's it. This is done. Simple sauce. But all you do is toss this with whatever vegetables, like I said, you blanch them. You can do it with asparagus too. I didn't mention that. And then you can sprinkle some extra sesame seeds on top. It's delicious. So that's our lesson. Do you have any questions?
But Joyce and Di said that they enjoyed all your hints, Alan, for making the katsu and appreciate it.
Oh,
So
nice.
Barbara is saying thank you for tonight's program.
And this time around, we asked for suggestions, but if you right now want to shout out, let me know what a dish that you'd love to learn to make. Let me know, because we had very little feedback from people. So I don't know. I don't know what people want to learn. So any feedback on what you'd like to learn would be great.
You said sukiyaki. How about that? It's getting colder now. Maybe people
Sure.
with sukiyaki, we could try
Okay.
that. People are saying, how about soba? Cooking soba. How do we cook soba? But yeah.
That's pretty simple though, yeah.
Saying thanks for showing us the reasons for using the things that you used and the different methods for prepping and cooking. She said she found it very helpful as well.
And before we go, I just wanted to say thanks to our crew here. I think I have the easy part. Thank you, Myron and Tara, Bradley, and Michelle. We have a great crew that does. I do the cooking part. That's the easy part. All the organization's up to them. So I really appreciate the support, and they do all the technical part with the cameras and all that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, everybody. And I'd like to just thank Alan. So thank you, Alan, for taking time out to show us, provide us with your expertise so that we could do this in our own homes as well. All right, folks, we are going to wrap it up. Thank you again, Michelle from our community outreach group for coordinating today's event, Tara and Myron as well for being there, helping us behind the scenes as well. We hope that you enjoyed tonight's program, and we will see you again at hopefully Cooking Part 3. Be sure to check out our website, berkeleybuddhisttemple.org, for other events that we might be having soon. Thank you again for joining, and have a good rest of your evening.